Hello, it's John, and today I'm going to show you how to look around in a database called Chronicling America. This is one of the newer ones, and it's a lot of fun. I can waste a lot of time browsing through this. This is a Library of Congress site, so all you need to do is search Chronicling America. See, comes up. Library of Congress. You don't need to access this through the university website. If you want to read more about it, you can click here on the About and take a look at it. But what we're looking at are, it looks to me like digitized microfilm. Okay, so we've got PDF files, and in the web browser, there's some kind of built-in PDF reader where you can look at images, pretty high-quality images, of newspapers from 1836 to 1922. You can also limit your search to newspapers from particular states. So what I wanted to do, I thought, let's look, since we're reading Frederick Douglass, let's search for some of the sort of earliest mentions of Frederick Douglass. Let's see what we find. Go. 31. You can sort them by date. There we go. It's showing the page where it's finding Frederick Douglass. You can also click Show Only Front Pages. Most of these newspapers from before the Civil War are 4 pages. It's one big sheet of paper printed on both sides and folded in half. Some of them might be longer, but that's what I would expect. You're looking at a newspaper from this time. It's going to be, not that many pages. So, a lot of choices here. Looks like 1845 is a pretty busy time for Douglass being mentioned here. And here's the earliest one. Let's take a look at this. Vermont Telegraph, 1844. Okay, the way this site works, you've got this viewer. I find you need a big screen. Maybe you can do this on a laptop comfortably. You have to sort of figure it out. You've got this window over here, this little window, and what we can do is if you zoom in, you see up here, there's this blue box that's showing which part of the screen you're looking at. So you can sort of click and drag on this and sort of move it around. It can be a little tricky. It's sort of like, I don't know, it takes a little getting used to depending on your sensitivity of your mouse and the size of your browser window and so forth. But it doesn't take too long to get the hang of it. So Douglass's name popped up. Let's see, there it is, Frederick Douglass, Lynn, Massachusetts. Yeah, this is definitely our Frederick Douglass. He is listed as, what is he doing here? He's an associate corresponding secretary of an anti-slavery society, I suppose. Okay, so we got to go back a couple columns. Whoa. See, I'll zoom in too much by accident. This happens. This is the Vermont Telegraph in Brandon, February 1843. And it looks like this article, this item is starting here in the third column. This is very typical looking newspaper for the time period. It's got a bunch of columns, 6 columns maybe on the front page, sure. And then it has here like little attributions. So whatever was running over here, it says it's from NAS Standard. Not sure what that is. Okay, something standard. This one's from the Herald of Freedom. So that would be another paper. And what they've done is cut and pasted from another newspaper this little piece of writing. And what it is it is a kind of declaration of the existence and purpose of a group of people that have come together to remove the causes of the existing evils of society. That sounds like a good idea. Who are these guys? John Collins. We can look these guys up in Frederick Douglass's autobiography and see if these are characters. So I've got that here, and I'm looking up Collins. John A. Collins. Oh yeah, sure enough, he shows up a bunch in it's chapter 3 of part 2, Introduced to the Abolitionists. So John A. Collins is a general agent of the Massachusetts Anti-Slavery Society, and he urges him to become an agent of that society. So this Collins is in this chapter quite a bit, and where it describes Douglass meeting the abolitionists. So these are abolitionist friends of his. But what's curious about this is it doesn't appear to be an anti-slavery society necessarily. Their constitution says that they like peace, freedom, plenty, and intelligence. That's a good thing to like. And they're against toil, anxiety, disease, covetousness, intolerance, poverty, intemperance, slavery, war, and premature death. Those are good things to be against. What is the name of this? Scrolling down here. Here's the Constitution. Okay, so this association shall be called, it says, the Society for Universal Inquiry and Reform. All right, I don't know what that is. The Society for Universal Inquiry and Reform. Let's try. It auto-completes, so it's a thing that other people have searched for. And it looks like somebody's written a book about it. Thomas Ham has written a book about the Society for Universal Inquiry and Reform. And I'm here in Google Books. I'm not buying the ebook for $33.01. Okay, so this is one of, there are lots of societies. They like to make societies and have constitutions. I guess it was a lot of fun in the 1840s to do this kind of organization, and this appears to be something that Douglass belonged to, in addition to his anti-slavery society. So, all right, well that's kind of interesting. What I'm doing right now is browsing, and when you see these little red areas here, it's showing me where on the page Frederick Douglass's name appeared. Okay, so like here's in here. Let's look at this one. This is the Anti-Slavery Bugle from New Lisbon, Ohio. Where is New Lisbon, Ohio? I think that's out by Pittsburgh. Lisbon, Ohio. New Lisbon. Today, Lisbon. It says, I saw it. Today, Lisbon, Ohio. Okay, so it changed its name. I guess it's Old Lisbon. Regular Old Lisbon. Got a newspaper here, and right. Here's where it is. Okay. Go back to the search results. The Anti-Slavery Bugle. So this is an abolitionist paper. And it actually says up here, New Lisbon, Ohio, but it says on the top of the paper very clearly that this is Salem, Ohio. So I don't know what the story is there. Yeah, sure, no union with slaveholders. So this is an anti-slavery paper. Here we got some anti-slavery people, and they're asking for, subscriptions. And if, my guess would be this paper is probably taking subscription money and using it to fund, Underground Railroad type activities. That would be my guess. I think that a lot of the papers were not only spreading news about anti-slavery, but sort of gathering, uh, funds to actually do it. So here we have a letter from Frederick Douglass, September 1, 1845. Are the letters of Frederick Douglass? Is this collected somewhere? I'm not sure, but we could read it if we wanted to and sort of see if it's interesting to us. Yep, it's signed, and this would be Douglass is traveling to Ireland, right? He talks about this in the autobiography, and it's right around the same time as when he was talking about that other guy, John Collins. Okay, so we're in like chapter 3, chapter 4, and there's some kind of anecdote here. He's got a story to tell. Let's see what it is. Thanks to a kind providence, I am now safe in old Ireland, in the beautiful city of Dublin, surrounded by the kind family and seated at the table of our mutual friend, James H. Webb, brother of the well-known Richard D. Webb. Are these Webbs in the index of his biography? Yeah, Richard Webb, page 410. And so what, he's in here, he's mentioned. Oh yeah, so there's a little tiny bit of description about his trip to Dublin here on page 410. So this is a letter. It has some information that is not in the autobiography, and a little bit of writing. And he says he will he's going to write about the cause. So he's going to write about anti-slavery. And it looks like it's getting interesting here. I know it will gladden your heart to hear that from the moment we first lost sight of the American shore till we landed at Liverpool, our gallant steamship was the theater of an almost constant discussion of the subject of slavery, commencing cool but growing hotter every moment it advanced. It was a great time for anti-slavery and a hard time for slavery, the one delighting in the sunshine of free discussion, and the other horror-stricken at its godlike approach. The discussion was general. If suppressed in the saloon, it broke out in the steerage. If it ceased in the steerage, it was renewed in the saloon. And if suppressed in both, it broke out with redoubled energy high upon the saloon deck in the open, refreshing, free ocean air. I was happy. Everything went on nobly. The truth was being told and having its legitimate effect upon the hearts of those who heard it. At last, the evening previous to our arrival at Liverpool, the slaveholders, convinced that reason, morality, common honesty, humanity, and Christianity were all against them, and that argument was no longer any means of defense, or at least but a poor means, abandoned their post in debate and resorted to the old and natural mode of defending their morality by brute force. Yes, they actually got up a mob, a real American, Republican, Democratic, Christian mob, and that too on the deck of a British steamer and in sight of the beautiful highlands of Dungarvan. I declare it is enough to make a slave ashamed of the country that enslaved him. To think of it. That's pretty good. Without the slightest pretensions to patriotism, as the phrase goes, the conduct of the mobocratic Americans on board the Cambria almost made me ashamed to say I had run away from such a country. It was decidedly the most daring and disgraceful, as well as wicked exhibition of depravity I ever witnessed, north or south, and the actors in it showed themselves to be as hard in heart, as venomous in spirit, and as bloody in design as the infuriated men who bathed their hands in the warm blood of the noble Lovejoy. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. This is a travel letter by Frederick Douglass. This would be, if somebody wanted to do an edition, if you find something like this, and you're like, oh, I think this is great. I liked reading this. I want to learn more about it. You could make an edition of this, and what you would do is you'd start by typing this out. I would check to make sure that it isn't already in print. It might be in print. There might be collected letters of Frederick Douglass, and this is included, and perhaps even well known. I'm not a scholar of the letters of Frederick Douglass. I haven't studied this much, but it's interesting. So it's good writing. It has all kinds of interesting themes in it. The mob stuff is quite interesting. The history of mobs is interesting at this time period. And, there's this reference to the noble Lovejoy. Do you know the story of the infuriated men who bathed their hands in the warm blood of the noble Lovejoy? Either way, if you were doing an edition of that, you could put a note on it. So this is Chronicling America. It's a great way to sort of waste time, at least for me. I enjoy looking through this a lot. Let's do one more search, and I'll show you. It's got an advanced search feature. Let's go take a look at this. So we could look for Frederick Douglass. What if we looked for? Let's look for Frederick Douglass, and we'll look for the word temperance, and we'll look for them within 50 words of each other. And let's limit it again to before the Civil War. See how this search works. It's our Anti-Slavery Bugle from New Lisbon again. There's a bunch of stuff here. So I don't know, if I was looking for, I wanted to find things about Frederick Douglass and temperance in the same breath for some reason. Maybe I wanted to write about temperance in Douglass's work. That would be how you would do this kind of search. This one is a little faint. It's a little more difficult to read. But it looks like the action is here, going on down here. Spirit of Old Ireland. Frederick Douglass is encouraging somebody here. What is this about? What do we have? This is a letter. It starts up here, comes down. There's some dots. It looks like it's quoting poetry, and it looks like it's signed up here. Let's see what it is. So it looks like it's a letter from Ralph Varian to William Lloyd Douglas. Okay, here we see Frederick Douglass is on his way to waken his responses. One other thing to note here is this is a Frederick Douglass, right, that the search doesn't find. Here's another Frederick Douglass. So this is some kind of letter here where Frederick Douglass is being talked about a bunch. But see how the software doesn't pick up every single hit. You don't get too many false positives with this search. Like you look for something, like you look for the word Akron and you find the word Aaron. There's some databases that will do that to you. This one's pretty good in my experience, but it does miss hits. So when we search for Frederick Douglass, what percentage of all mentions of Frederick Douglass and all the newspapers that are stored here are we getting? I don't know. Half of them, a quarter of them. It's hard to say. So if you were interested, like you're reading Douglass's biography, and there's a particular window in time that you're really interested about Frederick Douglass, and you do these sorts of searches, and you realize you're like, look, the New Lisbon Anti-Slavery Bugle is just given all the Frederick Douglass news, and you do a search, and you're sort of disappointed, like something happened. He was in a stagecoach in Ohio, and they threw him out of first class, and then he sued and got his money back. And you read about that, and you were hoping to find like a newspaper account, and you do the search, and the search terms don't come up. That doesn't mean it's not in here. What I've learned, just in a few minutes, is that the Anti-Slavery Bugle is a great source of Frederick Douglass news. And so what you might do is just go read the Anti-Slavery Bugle from this time. Okay, which is something you can do. You don't need to just search. You can find. You could search by title find the publications. So this is the, see, like here we can click on Anti-Slavery Bugle right here and browse the issues. Why don't we shows a calendar of all the ones, okay, that are in here. It looks like it came out once a week, very typical. Maybe you're missing some issues, very common. Might have started in May of 1845. There's only 2 issues. There was a fire or something, and things burned down. They probably didn't make that many. Is another thing, but they have a pretty good run here, late 1845. Let's show all front pages. That's always fun to look at. And then so obviously the title of the top of it changed over time. So this is Chronicling America. It's a good time. You can browse it. Just look for your authors. Just look for your themes. Look for works. Or what you do is you're reading your Douglass autobiography. And there's something you want to look up, and you can use this is a great site to go and look for newspapers. This is only one of them, and this one is mostly newspapers. It doesn't have a whole lot of literary magazines, but as you can see, it's quite common before the Civil War for the newspapers to have what we would today consider to be literature, right? There's a lot of creative literature, like here, here's a poem on the front page. All right, so that's more than enough probably for now. Ask me questions if you have them, and go